Woo-hoo-hoo! And we're live once again on another Tuesday. I am back in Vegas, baby. And I have an awesome guest in the house today. And we got to finally meet for the first time. Tristan, yay. Welcome to the show. And before we get stuck in, because we got a lot to talk about today in 30 minutes or less, can you please just kind of, for everybody who doesn't know you, just a little who you are and what you do, and then we'll jump right in.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't know me, my name's Tristan Griffiths, better known as I'm Tristan G across all the socials. So do connect with me wherever you like to. I run a media company called in9.media, and we focus on removing the overwhelm from social media, content creation, and live streaming.
Perfect, perfect. Man, that was succinct. I love it. I love it. And I just have to put in a plug for Tristan. He created content before we went live about the live as content and posted it in the Espresso Plus group. So if you're not in Espresso Plus, you didn't see it, but it was just a really great example of what is it, walking the talk, or so to speak. It's like you can always just use something as a bit of content creation. So I love it. I love it. So we're talking about the overwhelm because it's real. It's real, and people do feel overwhelmed. And what happens when we feel overwhelmed is we're like deer in the headlights. We end up doing nothing, or we do lots of kind of content, and we want to do good content. So I'm hoping that you'll give us some nice tips today. So let's first of all talk about what kind of overwhelm people get into. So since this is your field, I'm going to let you go for it. What kind of overwhelm do people get?
So we rebranded when we became in9.media to talk about removing the overwhelm, because there's lots of people who work in social. There's a variety of different people you can work with. And in the same way you do the video easy peasy, it's really specific what you do. If people aren't overwhelmed, then they're probably not going to be a good fit for us, because we like to focus on giving small actionable steps that they can take, removing that overwhelm, making it much more accessible to them to start creating content, whether that's going to be written or video or graphics. And it's really showing people tools and techniques that they're proven. They're not just theory. Literally, I've lived and breathed creating content, growing audiences for 20 odd years. So when I talk about it, I'm really talking from a place of authority, because I've been there and done it. And I've also done it across different industries. So it's not just
Mm.
worked within one. The most obvious overwhelm is, what do I post? How often do I post? All those general questions that most people getting into social have. But it's not just people getting into it. A lot of people are already involved doing social media, either for their own business or for another business. Sometimes they just hit that roadblock and they get a bit of a moment where they're not sure if they're doing the right thing, if there's something better they should be doing. Are they missing the latest platform or things like that? And so you get this distraction, and there's so many things happening in social that when people say to me, what does your average day look like? The real answer is it's 24 hours where anything can happen. And that is really true in the social world. So we help people to navigate that. And that's through teaching, training, and support. And so sometimes I'm literally walking around the supermarket on like I'll get, if someone sends me a message, I'll literally video call someone while I'm doing my shopping to explain how to do something. So I'm not even at a computer, but because I've lived and breathed it for such a long time, I can be like, right, go on Facebook, go to the top right-hand corner, click this. And people are like, how do you do that while you're in the supermarket? And it's just because I've done it for such a long time.
Man, that's awesome. That is a gift. That's almost like a photographic memory where you can do that, because that is very difficult when you just have to envision how things are. So, how many social channels are you actually on yourself, just as Tristan?
Most of them. So you'll notice that I opened with, you can find me as I'm Tristan G across all the socials. It used to be across all the socials except for TikTok, but we actually managed to get the handle for TikTok
Oh,
finally.
ooh.
Some 12-year-old or something had got it before me, and he obviously jumped off the platform, got bored, and I managed to get it.
Woo.
So I primarily do live content across Facebook and LinkedIn. I create story content pretty much every single day across Instagram.
Wow.
Um, YouTube, obviously, I use as a library storage space, and obviously for authority across Google. I then have I'm Tristan G as a website as well. So I have written content
Mm.
there and a bit of a background about who I am and what I do, and any kind of credible notes across there. And then obviously I have all the agency side as well. So I pretty much sit on every platform. I've got Twitter as well. I'm probably not as active on Twitter as I probably should be. I dip in and out of Twitter chats quite a bit. I'm quite connected to a lot of very influential Twitter users. So when they nudge and say, "Hey, haven't seen you for a while," I reappear for a little while. Ran a clubhouse. I've actually got a clubhouse club that I was running that was all about teaching social media and had a whole load of people.
Wow.
John Asperian was one of them. Gus Bandal was on there. Ella Raw was in there. There's a whole load of different social
great peeps
platforms. So yeah, you can, like I say, find me everywhere as I'm Tristan G.
Wow. So that's probably the first tip, is name your channels, if you can, the same across all of them, so that you're not saying, "Oh, I'm Tristan G on Twitter, but on Facebook, I'm Tristan with the G." And then it's like that, because that can be overwhelming, because then you have to keep, like, you can use the same hashtag everywhere, right? And when you did.
Yeah, there is actually a tip for that. So sometimes, people get to the point of they've already set it up and then they work with someone like yourself or me or John, and they realize that they haven't done that. So there is a bit of a workaround. If you can't change it, because some platforms don't let you do maybe more than one change or any changes. What you can do is, if you have your own website, so you've got a domain for your website, so mine is obviously I'm Tristan G, you can also find me by going to I'm Tristan G / your favorite platform. So if you put / Facebook, it will redirect you to my Facebook. So that way, it doesn't matter if the username is different. You can then say, put / and then your favorite platform like Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and it will take you to the platform. And that way you don't get that confusion of lots of different usernames.
Wow, that's a great tip. That's a great tip. So when you're posting content, do you post the same thing on multiple channels, or do you just do you do you just post it as is, or do you try and say, well, if it's on Twitter, I want it to be square. If it's on TikTok, I want, whatever. It's like Instagram is one format. Are you resizing your posts, or do you just bang them out however they are?
So obviously best practice is to use specific, like the best sizes to all platforms. But I'm also, because like you said, I live and breathe what I do. I think it's important to make it accessible, make it easy for yourself. And so I live and breathe what I teach people as well. So if you haven't got the capacity to do that, which a lot of solo business owners or entrepreneurs haven't got the time, is make it a format that will work best across all platforms. So square format works generically quite well across all platforms, with the proviso that occasionally the top and bottom disappears, so put your main content in the middle. So I generally do that. With regards to posting across all platforms in a live environment, like I've just been at a music festival this weekend, and we've published about 600 or 700 photos from a 3-day event. Those go out literally onto all the platforms as quickly as we can get them out across all platforms, so that there's high visibility, and it helps their brand. With other things where it's teaching or educational or not timely content, obviously if it's timely, it has to go at a set time. If it's not timely content, I actually work with Agora Pulse as a social scheduling platform to make sure that I'm consistently showing up across all platforms, even when I'm on the road or traveling or photographing at a festival. But when I put my stuff in, there's actually a great feature inside Agora Pulse that allows me to shuffle my queues. So I've created specific queues for types of content. So I have an image post, a celebrate friends post, like educational content, fun content. So of course, then I can just in each of those queues shuffle them per platform, so that even though the same content is going across the platforms, they go at different times. And a lot of people kind of raise an eyebrow to, should you be posting the same thing across all platforms? The reality is, if your content is good and useful to people, then they're very unlikely to see it on multiple platforms. Because of the algorithms, they're very unlikely to see every piece of content you put out. So let's say you're on 4 platforms and you post it across all 4 platforms, unless they are a super fan and they're watching everything you do and on see first on the platforms that allow you to do that, the chances are they won't see it all anyway. So make sure you give yourself the best visibility. If you're worried about them overwhelming people the other way, of them seeing the content multiple times on multiple platforms at the same time, change up the timings. Post on Monday on Instagram, Tuesday on Facebook, Wednesday on LinkedIn. so that there's multiple opportunities and every platform has the chance to see it, but maybe it's just at a different time.
Wow, that's a great tip. So you're using a scheduling tool because you have multiple platforms, but are you following up in the comments yourself like that? So you publish it, but okay, it's going out at 10 a.m. on a Monday, and then you'll be there to meet it and greet it and nurture it through.
Yeah, so primarily the reason for the social scheduling is for when I'm probably not going to be available. If I'm speaking at an event, or maybe while we're live, I could push some content out in the middle. That would allow me to be present on the platform and then go to the follow up. Because obviously, when people comment, when
Yep.
they engage or interact, you get the notifications.
Yep.
With regards to that side, by being focused in creating content in batches and scheduling and making sure I've got content regularly going out, that actually allows me to spend more time in the platform. So I literally,
Okay.
even though I use a scheduler, the amount of time I spend in platform, if I showed you on my iPhone the statistics of how much time I spent in social apps, obviously it's off the chart because it's my job. But I live in those platforms, and of course
I love
managing
it.
different accounts, jumping across, like it's just off shot. Like I nearly want to pan my camera, but the room's a bit of a mess. To the amount of mobile phones that are sat on the side here to manage the different accounts that we oversee. Um,
Wow.
but I think it's important that the scheduling has a place, but you do need to be present on the platform. So it's a really, really good question.
Okay, that's good. Okay, so say if I was a person who was just all in on LinkedIn, that's all I did was LinkedIn. So I say, well, I don't really need a scheduling tool because I'm there to like just nurture, post my posts and nurture them. And so what? I could still get into overwhelm, probably about what should I be posting about. And so talk to me about content strategy because that's probably the biggest thing that makes people having overwhelm is they don't have a strategy. So they just kind of sit down and go, what should I post about today? Which is usually a little bit too late, right?
Yeah. So one of the things with the strategy behind content is always to have some form of plan, and it doesn't have to be a super complicated plan. For me, I have quite an intensive plan where I have the posts where I celebrate friends, the posts where I'm promoting products that we actually endorse, and then I have educational content. So I'm at quite a deep level of strategy, but your strategy might just be I need to make sure that I get at least one blog a week out, or
Mm,
an article on LinkedIn or a newsletter, so that I know I've done it and I've ticked the box to say yes, I showed up and I did the follow up. Whenever
right.
I'm teaching and training, the question is always how much time have you got, so that we can look at the best strategy that you could use for that time. A lot of people make the mistake that content is only publishing. Content is
Mm.
also the comments. So you saying about going back, do you follow up?
Ah,
It's not
yep.
just comments on your own content, it's comments on other people's content. So in the same way, when you posted about us being live together, I obviously went across and commented on your posts. That's still content because you can have those conversations with people. And like, if I get into a really good conversation, some of the easiest content is literally screenshots. Like from the festival I've just come from at the
Ah,
weekend, I've got screenshots of the director and the director's wife of the whole festival congratulating us on the good photos. That's content in
mm,
itself. Is they've posted it as like a comment. I can screenshot it and take 3 or 4 of them, turn them into a post saying, been at a festival, always good to get this kind of feedback. And it's
mm.
easy. I don't have to think about
Wow.
it. So it needs a strategy, and the strategy helps you to manage your time. That's basically what it boils down to.
Ah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, what do you think about like, having a whole calendar for a month? Is that like I don't do that. I'm kind of like you in that I say, okay, every Tuesday is my LinkedIn live, then Friday I got to schedule the post and then I like to do a newsletter once a month. So I've kind of got my month, but it's not like I'm writing a post about this and I'm doing this. It's just basically I think I'd like to do a text post here. I'll do a graphic because I like to not just do video. I like to have it broken up. So that's my strategy. So does that make sense? Or do you think a whole calendar for 30 days, I've got this post and that post and all ready to
Again,
go?
it depends on the person, their characteristic, and also what they're trying to achieve with each social platform. So every platform is also going to be different for different people. Um, I always say to people, if you want to learn from me and you want to get the educational content, then you want to follow me on LinkedIn and Facebook. If you want to see a bit more personal stuff, then join me on Instagram, because I'm sharing behind the, like, literally, I'm joking, I'm laughing at this because I've actually got, this is a behind the scenes of us just starting the live stream. I literally pulled my phone down as we started.
That's great.
Because it's the more personable side. Like, you can see if I go for a run, if I'm at the gym, like if I'm sharing like nice meals or places I've been out, that's probably going to go to Instagram, not onto Facebook and LinkedIn, because that's where I do my teaching training content. So I think, what's the person looking for from the platform? What are they trying to achieve there? And how much time they've got will define the strategy. With regards to the actual posts, I actually think having an idea when you're going to be posting, not necessarily exact times, is important. And I think with that allows you some flexibility.
Yes.
But I also recommend to people, the best thing you can do for your productivity is to batch create content. So obviously we're doing live, can't do any of that pre-roll, right? That, unless you've got clips that you're going to use. But if you're doing other content, if you're sitting down to write a blog, why not write 2 or 3 and dedicate time to it with no distractions? Because the distractions are what makes it take such a long time. Come away from the social platforms to create the content as well. Like, other than if you're screenshotting, obviously you have to be there.
Yep.
All other content, step away. I literally recorded the video to say about being live here in 3 hours time as I was walking out of helping a charity shop in town. So like, I just,
because I knew you were somewhere. You were like, Tristan on location.
so I put the clock in the background because I said in 3 hours. Now, if you see it in an hour's time because of the algorithm, you still know that it's at 6 o'clock. And obviously I'm UK based, so you might be able to do the time difference for you, but you know that it was definitely at a different time. Whereas that's a common mistake, is people see something, they go, oh, Gillian, congratulations on this. And you're like, that happened a week ago, but it's just shown in your algorithm. So
right. That's perfect. That's perfect. And that was a great snippet. That was short and to the point, and hey, join us. And it was just like another way. And, those are good things, because we don't, some people might not know, and it goes out and it's like, different feedback. I can do a video one day and it doesn't do very well. The same video another day at the same time would do fabulous. And you can't explain it. It just happens. And so you just have to roll with it. So what about reusing? Somebody once told me this. They said that's cheating, reusing your own content. So it's like, I did a video 6 months ago and it was about such and such. And I go, that's still relevant. Is that cheating to use it again?
Absolutely not. If it's still relevant and it's still useful, then it's still good content. People like Gary Vaynerchuk do this all the time. He says, hey, back in 2016, I said this, and jumps to a clip, plays it, and then comes back to it. That's how he shows it. And then he gives an update that might add more context, or bearing in mind that there's 3 new platforms that didn't exist, he'll add the opinion of those 3 platforms. So if it's relevant and if it's topical for right now, then definitely you can revisit it. Same as a lot of people who write blogs always get overwhelmed with consistently coming up with new topics. The reality is you can go back and revisit a topic you've already written about with a new view or with a new standpoint, because you've got more of an education that you can put in. So you've got new insights that you can share when you reshare that content. So it might be an updated for 2022, for example, or post-pandemic rather than pre-pandemic kind of view to how things are.
I love that. I love that. And, I've often found that sometimes, even like looking at the comments of a post of something I've written, and then you go, oh, I never really thought about that. And you can kind of take that topic and now kind of go off on a different slant based on the comments. And it's relevant to one person at least. So that's a good thing.
I've actually got a funny story around exactly that point. There's actually a best-selling book called Feed a Starving Crowd by Robert Curry, that he literally went to to Amazon. And when he went to Amazon, he went through all the books because he was just about to write a book, and he read all of the comments under everybody else who had written in the same subject area. And he looked for questions that people needed answering, then answered them in his book. And of course, then he could go back and leave a comment saying, hey, this is answered in this book. So he made a best-selling book because it was reverse engineered. And that's what we say about content, is if you can reverse engineer 4 or 5 different types of content from one, it's not lazy, it's actually really productive.
I love that, and we'll all be on Amazon this later today. Googling, doing the search on Amazon. Okay, I got to get my ideas. But that's a great idea. And actually, Amazon, that's just an excellent way to like have content, is just look at the comments on Amazon. What's the gaps that people are missing? So if you're looking at a book on like job interviews or something like that, and people say, your book didn't cover this. Well, there you go. You got a blog article, you got a social media post, you got a video post, and even just repurposing. Like, this is something I want to start working at. I'll do a video post. And I think it was like maybe Sarah Clay was on here and we were talking about content creation. And I realized from Sarah that I should be taking my video post and turning it into a text post. And then I should be taking the text post and turning it into something else. And that's a missed opportunity. It's like steal from yourself, because some people will respond to a video, but they would respond differently if it was a text post or a graphic or a GIF or, something like that. So that's a good tip too.
100% agree on that. Like we use a phrase in 9.media called video first, where we start with video and reverse engineer everything. And when we said we've got a lot to talk about in the 30 minutes, I know that most people speak at 120 words a minute, and I normally average 200 to 220. So I know that because I reverse engineer content from video, and therefore I know how much words I will fit into 30 minutes. So, we can have a look back and work out how many words we managed to get through the video. But it is saying that reverse engineering stuff and taking things across, taking it from things people have said online, taking it from your own content, or taking it from the comments of things where it gives you that different angle to go back and rewrite the content or re-record the content. They're all great ideas. It's about the structure of, I've had that idea, putting it in place, like all the process to make sure it happens. So I have 2 places that I keep all of the concept ideas, my notes on my phone and a whiteboard on the wall in the office. So I'm stood here and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to record today. Because I did a series that's a long time, and I literally sometimes would come in and go, what am I going to talk about today? And like, I've been doing it for 20 years, right? And I walk in and go, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today. And sometimes I would hear something and I'd be like, that's today's topic, make a note, and I'd just go and record it. But having a list of topics you could cover makes this bit easy. Yeah, if you know what it is. And don't just write what the topic is, write a little bit of context. So, whatever inspired you, so that you can reference it, and then how you would approach it. Because if you come back to it in 2 days, you might not remember the context of it if you haven't made a little note with it.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. That's great. So let's talk about, you know what? We should go and take some comments and then we'll come back. So it's all of a sudden, it's just like, oh my gosh, time is flying. Time is flying. So we got Annette Richmond. She's going to come back and catch the replay. Oops, she beat Jeff out for spot number 1. Okay. Looking forward. Learning how to deal with content creation chaos. And that's true. He's just taken our overwhelm and put it in the 3 C's. So we always love that, Jeff. Thank you. We've got John Asperian here. Hello, Gillian and Tristan. Lovely to see 2 of my favorite expressians together. Yay. Good evening from sunny Scotland. So great to be here. I love the international part of our lives. So thank you, Susan. It's Suzanne or Susan. Thank you for joining us today. I know you're new. We've got LinkedIn user Jeff Young. He'll help this person out so that they're not the blankhead on LinkedIn. But thank you for being here from Columbus, Ohio. We've got the lovely G. Hey there, Gillian. Loving Tristan. Tristan's hashtag. Okay, you got a fan of the hashtag. It is a good hashtag. It's so easy to remember. It is so easy. We've got the lovely Rebecca. Good evening, Gillian and Tristan. We've got Tina coming in from Belgium. Good evening, Gillian and Tristan from Belgium. We've got G again from Texas, where I just learned today we haven't had rain since June the 3rd. And then we've got Jane coming in from Germany. We've got Stephanie coming in from, I'm not sure if she's coming in from Kentucky. We got the lovely Sarah Dodd, another Expressian who's just jumping into video and absolutely loving it. Hello, lovely people. Oh, she's from Dublin, Ohio. So that's interesting. I don't know where I got the Kentucky in there. And then we have Tina, a shout out to Gus, John, and Ella Orr. Yes, All three of them are just absolutely lovely, lovely. And hello, we've got Marsha. I think Marsha's coming in from, I'm thinking somewhere back east in the United States. And so we've got a bunch of people. I'm not seeing any questions, more just hellos. What I'd like, which are great,
I
but
can
what I
see one
wanted,
here, Gillian,
okay,
from
where?
Stephanie Miller has asked, I work part-time and I'm continually overwhelmed. Is there one thing that you would recommend prioritizing? Yeah, I'm actually going to go straight in on this. But if you're limited on time because you're working part-time and therefore you've only got a limited amount of time, is batch create your content. Like, come up with your ideas, because all throughout the day, even when you're at your part-time job, you might get an idea, make the notes I said, write the context, and then I think we're probably just about have time to share what I told Gillian I might share
Okay.
today. Um,
Yep.
there's a way to do content and work backwards. So if you've got that idea and you want to batch create and you want to create a massive amount of content, this is actually, we call this the content creation machine, because it does exactly that. It creates a massive amount of content very quickly. The very top of it starts with the idea, the topic that you're going to talk about. If you record a video based on the average typing speed and the average speaking speed of people is 45 words a minute typing, 120 speaking. So if you do a 3-minute video, you're getting into the 400-500 words in 3 minutes. So even if you've only got 30 minutes to talk, if you've got all your topics and you can just sit down and you batch your videos and you do 10 3-minute videos, that could be, if you did one a week, that's your next 10 weeks of content done in 30 minutes. Obviously, you want to look at transcribing it and things like that. Make sure your subtitles for accessibility. But if you're doing subtitles for accessibility, you've got the words. So you've now got written content and you've got a blog, right? You've already done it. You just didn't realize that when you did that, you had it. And then publish it as a blog, look at the formatting, make it accessible, makes you more ready for search and Google and people finding you. Obviously, pull out the key phrases. I know from experience that when you're doing like a 3-minute video, you're going to have 5 really good quotes. In fact, if you look back through the video really carefully and watch for this mug, you'll see all of the quotes that I'm going to take out of this, because I'm actually drinking from more than one mug. If you're doing video, bring one on screen when you think that's the bit I want to edit. It makes the edit a lot easier later. So an editor or myself could go back, watch for the yellow mug and go, he wants the clip just before this. He wants the clip just before this. And then it makes the edit quicker. So then obviously you can turn quotes into graphics. And there's loads more. I'm not going to cover the whole thing, but that one video serves all of your content. So video back, start with a topic, create video, subtitle, turn into written content, and then create your graphics. And of course, you can pull the audio, especially if you're like we are using StreamYard, you can actually download the audio and you basically create a podcast.
It's amazing.
So
It's amazing.
those things from that one piece of video and that top core piece of content. So if anyone wants to know a bit more about this, they can obviously reach out to me, as I'm Tristan G across all the socials. And Gillian, maybe we'll have to sit down and look at how we could do this with some bits so we can demonstrate.
Oh, yeah.
As
Oh,
well.
definitely. And the amazing thing with, oops, too close. Okay. The amazing thing with the batch, because I agree, I love the batch recording. And the thing is that, you have your light, you have your studio, you got the room quiet. These are important things. Maybe you got your hair done, you got a nice shirt on, you're ready to go. So again, yes, do all your videos, and you don't have to do your editing. Just make sure that your videos are recorded, check them to make sure your sound works and all that stuff, because stuff happens. And then you've got it.
When they do their batch content, to be fair, I'm wearing like a work top, so it would be okay for me to be in all my videos like this. But if you're worried about that, put on a hat, put on a scarf, change your top. But like you say, the getting ready is the hardest bit. The sitting down in front of the camera is the hardest bit.
Get on a roll.
When we work with people who work in offices, set up an area, set up the lighting, set it up, get it ready. You only have to do that once if you do all your content as part of a batch, and that will make it really, really easy. I did spot one question about, do I prefer live or pre-recorded video? And I actually probably prefer live content, just because of the interactivity. But this is where that batching content or reusing content comes in. A tool like StreamYard allows you, let's say that Gillian can't do her regular slot, she could pre-record it and set it to go live. it wouldn't, you don't pretend it's live, but you tell people this is pre-recorded, but we're going to cover this, so that we won't be taking questions this session, but leave them in the comments and we'll come back to them. Preface it with that, and that allows you to do it. So there's a lot of tools that allow you to show up again, even when you can't. So if Gillian, was traveling, or maybe knew she was starting to feel ill, she could record it knowing that she wouldn't maybe be able to be there on the time.
Yes, yes. And the nice thing about lives like this is that there is that interaction that makes it exciting, and you don't worry so much. You're more forgiving of yourself because you're not going to do 60 million takes with a live. You hit go live and you go live. And the nice thing is now you've got 30 minutes or however long you go live for. You've got all this content that you can reuse and reuse and reuse. So like even today, one of the first things I saw on LinkedIn was I was on somebody else's show almost a year ago, and they were replaying a clip today because it's still relevant content. And it was a 30-second clip from a 1 hour long live. She's got content for a year. So that's a great way to do, lots of content. Make one live and then repurpose and micro content.
One thing that will never go out of fashion is being overwhelmed, because social media only gets faster and more things. So when I talk about overwhelm, that's why I don't talk specifics in the general content. I tend to go, here's how and why, and then touch on a couple of platforms, but I don't go deep on the platform at that point. I make that a separate point so that when a platform becomes irrelevant, you just stop using that bit and you can still use the main bit. So working out how to break your content. In fact, when I wrote the StreamYard user guide, that's how I did it, was work out which bits are likely to change and chapter it based on that, so that I'd only have to take that page out and then change it each time it changed.
Oh, that makes great sense. And I think I need to have you come back just to talk about StreamYard, because that is a whole topic in itself with using StreamYard and all this stuff. And maybe you'd share some cool secrets with us. And I keep telling them, I want that duck. I want a duck pillow. I want a duck pillow. But anyways, okay. So we've reached our 30 minutes. It just goes past. So what I'd like you to do is, can you give us a takeaway, sort of your words of wisdom that you would sum it all up for us today?
Yeah. So when you're doing content, always make it useful, and always, like I said, start with video because it allows you to create other content, and don't be worried or overwhelmed by sitting in front of a camera. If you're not confident on camera, remember that the camera is just like having a conversation with a customer. If you struggle to do it to a camera at first, put a friend the other side and talk across the camera to them. And then over time, you'll build the confidence. You can remove that person, and then you'll just be able to create content, grabbing your mobile phone and hitting that record button.
Awesome. Awesome. Love it. Love it. So hope to have you back again, you and your mugs.
Lovely. I've actually got 3 drinks on my table.
This is a guy on multiple. You should have like a YouTube mug and a Facebook mug and a LinkedIn, and then that way you got it together, color-coded mugs. Okay, well, thank you very much for being here today, Tristan. It was awesome. Thank you, everybody who joined us live and on the replay. And we look forward to, we'll jump back in the comments later and we'll address everybody's comments. So if you have comments, keep popping them in because we will be there and answering them. So thank you, everybody. And we'll see you again next week. Bye.